This week on the show, apparently Amazon had been selling on eBay for nearly a decade. There are some shipping surcharges coming your way, and eBay is changing feedback again. What is up, Galaxians? Welcome to episode number 245 of the Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. My name is Ryan, and if you're new to the channel, I am a full-time reseller and part-time YouTuber and podcaster working out of my home here in the greater Cincinnati area, and this channel is all about the flip life. We're going to cover a handful of reselling news topics, including a really interesting look at some things that Amazon has been up to over the last decade. And then in the back half of the show, as always, I will have a quick what sold recap for you. So I hope everybody's doing well, and let's get right in to this reselling news.
News updates.
So this one is really interesting, and I suppose probably it should not come as any big surprise, but Amazon sold on eBay and other sites to gather intelligence. This article appears over on e-commerce bites, and as always, I will link to these articles down in the show notes and the video description below if you want to go check them out for yourself. So the article says it's not surprising to imagine retail companies making purchases from rivals to gather intelligence, but it was a bit surprising to learn that Amazon reportedly had a program to sell on rival marketplaces for nearly a decade under brand names such as Rapid Cascade and Sfablis. Brands use subterfuge to buy online to sniff out counterfeit goods, but Amazon reportedly ran a project codenamed Curiosity, according to the Wall Street Journal. Quote, inside Amazon's secret operation to gather intel on rivals, staff went undercover on Walmart, eBay, and other marketplaces as a third-party seller called Big River. The mission, to scoop up information on pricing, logistics, and other business practices. That original article is available on the Wall Street Journal, but it is behind their paywall. It's not one that you can go see for free. So this summary is about as good as we're going to get here. Benzinga ran a story writing Big River Services International, a covert arm of Amazon, has been selling goods through various e-commerce platforms, including eBay, Shopify, Walmart, and Amazon itself, generating around $1 million in annual sales. So this is no small venture. That's a pretty good size seller. Crazy. Amazon's Big River employees allegedly attended rivals seller conferences and met with competitors, quote, identifying themselves only as employees of Big River Services, Benzinga reported. It doesn't appear that Amazon confirmed or denied the reports, but it copped to, quote, benchmarking, which it told Benzinga was a common practice in the business. I don't know that would not be true. I would imagine in this space, this is probably something that has gone on with other big companies as well, and this is just kind of the first time somebody's really been outed on it. As the article continues, it also means some sellers may have unknowingly been competing with Amazon. Conceivably, it was selling on its own marketplace too, and perhaps unknowingly sharing things with Amazon employees, thinking they were colleagues. So at these conferences, commenting on the community boards of these various sites and so on, talking to folks that were at best disingenuously and at worst dishonestly portraying themselves to be employees of this actual company when in fact they were employees of Amazon. If you've ever encountered Big River Services as a seller or as a buyer, let e-commerce bites know. You can also let us know in the comments down below if you're watching on YouTube. Do you think other marketplaces conduct corporate espionage at this level as well? As I just said, yes, I probably do, to be fair. I think they probably all want to get as much information as possible. I don't know quite how to feel about it, but it would be troublesome, I think, to be competing with Amazon off Amazon. It's bad enough as a third-party seller on Amazon to try to compete with them, but now if they have also been selling on these other sites as well, that's really something else. Wild story. I don't know. This article does not make clear. I assume that this particular program has been stopped and is not currently running, but I would not be at all surprised if there's something similar going on. So just be on the lookout for that. And again, let me know in the comments below if you had run into this Big River Services international at all in any of your travels or at any of the conferences that you may have gone to. Moving on, look for new UPS and FedEx surcharges. Sellers may encounter more cases of shipping surcharges, according to Refund Retriever, which reported that FedEx and UPS added 82 new delivery area surcharge zip codes to the existing delivery area surcharge list this month. The delivery area surcharges range from $3.95 to $5.85, depending on the service and delivery location. So if you shipped anything recently and it seemed like the price was a little higher than normal, this is probably why. To make bad news worse, the new zip codes cover some of the most dense urban areas and impact almost 1% of the U.S. population, according to Refund Retriever, which said many cover significant urban population centers, including New York, Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. The reason, they say, for carriers to target urban areas to cover the additional expense of serving densely populated areas, which often require tolls to cross bridges or tunnels with higher traffic congestion. Refund Retriever explained these DAS surcharges in 2022 in a YouTube video, which is attached in this article if you'd like to go check that out. So a bunch of new surcharges in urban areas. They claim it's because of the density and because of tolls and whatnot. But if you've seen an increase in your shipping fees, this is why. Shipping continues to be an issue at the United States Postal Service. I had commented a week or two ago that I had not yet been impacted. Unfortunately, that is no longer the case. I currently have, I think, 4 packages that are just AWOL, can't be found. Tracking is not updating. As of this morning, you couldn't even get on USPS tracking. The site just does not open at all. So it is really, really rough out there. I know I don't have an article for it this week, but there was a petition from Congress to stop all of Louis DeJoy's measures to change and improve the post office in their tracks because of all these delivery issues. But it is really becoming a serious, serious problem across the country. Again, let me know in the comments below if you are currently experiencing any package delays or any packages that are just completely missing. eBay. This one is on e-commerce bites. Also, the headline, eBay has product review envy and is changing feedback. Again, eBay has confirmed it's making another change to feedback, this time by requesting buyers rate the product for which they are leaving the seller feedback. Now, I've talked about this before where you get a lot of feedback where the feedback comment actually discusses the product, not the service that you as a seller provided. And eBay is now trying to separate those two things out. One of the issues apparently is that they're requiring in some cases that this product feedback be left, this product review be left before seller feedback can be left, which will be really problematic if feedback is important to you as a seller. There are reports of buyers who have been exposed to this new feature this month, presumably as part of testing, found, as I just said, that they were unable to leave seller feedback unless they rated the product they had purchased. 3 buyers sought help in the eBay discussion board threads because the product rating was mandatory, with one saying if that continued to be the case, they would stop leaving feedback for sellers altogether. I personally, I've talked about this before, I think the feedback system on eBay is all but broken anyway. I've got, I think, 1 negative and 3 or 4 neutrals over the last year against, I don't know, 1,800 positive feedbacks. So it hasn't affected me at all, but I know there is extensive kind of feedback extortion, people looking for adjustments, and the feedback is not accurate, and it's just really a broken system in my view. I wish they would frankly just scrap it. I don't know that it's, I suppose in the case of a particularly bad seller, it does give a potential buyer some kind of indication that there's a problem. I would think eBay can come up with some way to do that without allowing individual buyers to leave feedback, especially given that sellers are not able to leave anything other than positive feedback for buyers. But that's frankly probably another discussion. eBay has been making changes to feedback over the past 6 months as it copies features found on Amazon. They added the ability for buyers to upload photographs with their feedback. I have not had any of those happen yet. Richer text and images in feedback may add credibility and drive sales by instilling additional confidence for interested buyers as they shop, they said. In January, eBay added a verified purchase designation on feedback, explaining we've added this text to remove any doubt that the person leaving the feedback was involved in the transaction. Unlike eBay, other sites allow anyone to leave feedback or ratings, not just those involved in the transaction. Again, those are more of the product variety, not necessarily evaluating the seller. So I guess from that standpoint, eBay's attempt to kind of cleave those apart and have buyers leave separate feedback or reviews for the item itself and for the seller is probably good. They go on. During the holiday shopping season, eBay updated the default sort to highlight the most relevant feedback for your potential buyers. Sellers, they say, said the change made it impossible to find recent feedback and said it made it appear they had not left any feedback for buyers. Maybe I'm just too tech savvy. I didn't have any problem whatsoever changing the sort from most relevant to most recent to see my most recent feedback. So your mileage may vary, but I did not find that particularly to be a problem for myself. With these updates, your potential buyers will see your most engaged buyers' feedback and be more confident about their purchasing decision. My only other caveat to that would be when I look at mine on my mobile, it shows the 5 quote unquote most relevant feedback that eBay has selected, and those 5 have literally been the same 5 since this program started back before Christmas. They've not changed. I've had some very, very lengthy positive feedbacks that have been left in the interim, and none of those have made their way into that top 5. So you would have to go in and actually look at more feedback in order to even see some of the more recent ones. So I'm not convinced, again, as is probably clear, I'm not convinced that this feedback thing is really working out all that well. Anyway, Jessica Veo, product manager for the eBay feedback team, confirmed the change during Tuesday's episode of the eBay for Business podcast, but made no mention that buyers would be forced to rate the seller's product when leaving them feedback. She said, currently we are testing the ability to leave a product review inside the normal seller feedback intake form. So that means for items eligible for product reviews, buyers will be able to give them the item a star rating for the first time and item feedback along with the existing seller feedback already. In explaining what made product reviews different than feedback, Veo said, on eBay, some items that are sold by multiple sellers have a product review page on eBay which collects reviews for that item across all sellers who sell it. These are items like an iPhone or a Dyson vacuum. They're often things that are mass manufactured to have a barcode. And in product reviews, buyers also have the ability to leave a star rating for the item as well. So that's why we're bringing this into our feedback form. I saw, again, this is anecdotal evidence, but there were a bunch of sellers who commented that they were getting notes from buyers about this change, and it was happening a lot in media, which would not be what she's talking about here. Several buyers commented, I can't leave a product review on a book that I may not read for months. And if I want to leave the seller feedback and I have to do this thing first, I'm just not going to do it. So this is, we'll call it a work in progress to give eBay the benefit of the doubt on it, but it is not working as they hoped. At least not yet. They go on to say, we've had past research show that item-specific feedback is something potential buyers are really looking for to make a purchase decision, and we really just haven't highlighted that as much on eBay. What's more, she continued, item reviews and item star ratings are super important to search engines like Google. So if you Google an item, the sites that show the item star rating and item review are the results that are prioritized in the search results these days. You'll see like these pop up absolutely at the top. The host of the podcast advised listeners to check the eBay seller announcement board on Wednesday, April 24th for an announcement about the feature. I checked it on Saturday, what would that have been, the 27th, and there was nothing there. So I don't know if that's been updated this morning. I didn't go look, but there was nothing there at the time. Buyers and sellers might be more receptive to the feature if it isn't mandatory to leave feedback. You can see what buyers and sellers are saying and leave a comment on the e-commerce Bytes blog. There is a link in this article that you can go look at. Last bit of news, and this is I guess, good news. Etsy is funding an end of April sale in the United Kingdom. They began funding promotions back in the fall of 2023. They just kicked off a £5 off sale in the UK through Tuesday. Etsy told Wall Street in November that it was implementing the new marketing strategy because it was experiencing an increasingly competitive retail environment with very heavy emphasis on deep discounting. Etsy told sellers it was running the current UK promotion because it wanted to help support their businesses by encouraging UK buyers to shop small. They said, quote, from April 26th through the 30th, shoppers in the United Kingdom will get £3 off orders of £30 or more with promo code SMALL5. Sellers who ship to the UK, remember this applies only to UK buyers, will be able to take advantage of the promotion. There's no limit to the number of times the UK buyer can use the promo code between Friday and Tuesday. So by the time you hear this, it's only going to have less than 2 days to go. Special offer, they said, is just one of the many ways we're investing in you and helping bring more UK buyers to Etsy this spring. Details and a link can be found on the Etsy announcement board. They're also running seller-funded promotions in the U.S. They've got a Mother's Day markdown sale, which is running April 1st to May 12th, and a Father's Day promotion, which is May 13th to June 16th. Those are seller-funded. So if you agree to participate in that, you are taking the discount. Etsy is not funding that, where this UK option, they are actually footing the bill for that $5. So it'd be nice to see them do something like that for us, but that's what's going on here in the US over on Etsy. And that's going to put a wrap on this week's news. But I do have quite a few things in this week's What Sold. So let's dive right in. So I am still, if you're following me over on Instagram at Galaxy CDs Rocks, I'm still wading my way through a couple of big book purchases that I've made over the last few weeks. So far, they have been very, very good. I've not really found a lot of duds in that 1,000 book purchase. I think I've only separated out maybe 30 books out of 200 or 300 that I've sorted through so far. So I'm pretty thrilled with how that buy is shaping up. I am trying to negotiate another big buy as we speak. I was at an estate sale on Saturday. I bought about 40 books there, and the seller mentioned if I would be interested in making a deal on the rest of them, he would work with me, and we're currently trying to negotiate that. So I may have another big, it's probably 500 or 600 books buy, and then I may not be able to go sourcing for a while because my garage is full of books. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get into some of these items that sold. I mentioned several months ago that I had made a purchase at an estate sale of a big bunch of Seventh-day Adventist stuff. This was part of that lot. Seventh-day Adventism Renounced by D.M. Canwright. This is from 1961. It's a reprint, hardcover in its dust jacket, published by B.C. Goodpasture. I had this listed for $24.99 or best offer. I received an offer of $20 over on eBay and went ahead and sold it. I own that book for $1 in case you're interested. Here's another old one, the Cyclopedia of Biblical Literature, 3rd edition, written by John Kitto. This was volume 2 from 1870, published in Edinburgh. This book had been rebound. The binding was not real nice. It was a pretty rough book, but from 1870, it was still kind of interesting. The interior, the pages were pretty well tanned, but they were intact and in reasonably good condition. So I had this thing listed at, I want to say, maybe $34.99. It was in one of my promotions because I've had it for a long time. I bought this at an estate sale as part of a big lot of religious books for a couple of bucks a piece. This sold for $23.99 plus shipping. For those of you who are into weird, ironic numerology type things, the shipping cost on this by Ground Advantage was $6.66. I'm not quite sure how to feel about that. Moving on, this book I picked up at an estate sale for $1. Probably 6 months ago, Carlisle, the Jersey Settlement in Ohio, 1800 to 1980, was written by Harriet E. Foley. She was the editor. This was an illustrated hardcover about the town of Carlisle here in southwest Ohio. In really nice condition. This sold over on eBay for $23.99 plus shipping. Another one of those folio books I've been talking about for the last few episodes. This may be the last one I have, actually. Sir John Barrow, Mutancy of HMS Bounty. This was a 1999 second printing by the Folio Society, hardcover in a really nice illustrated cover with a slipcase, which was in excellent condition. This was, again, a book that I bought for $2 at an estate sale. I had it listed for $28.99. It got a watcher. I sent out an offer and sold it for $24.64 plus shipping. Moving over to Etsy. This one kind of made me mad, if I'm being completely honest. So this is a old textbook from, I want to say, probably the 90s. Calculus Early Transcendentals, James Stewart International Student Edition. It came with 2 CDs and the hardcover book. The hardcover book was massive. So the problem here is that this is a book that I own for $2 from an estate sale. It sold for $24.99. Oh, that's well and good. This sold to someone in the United Kingdom, which is also well and good, except, and I've talked about this before, that this book sold through eBay's, or rather through Etsy's offsite ad program, where they charge you a 15% fee on the total price, including shipping. This buyer selected Priority Mail International. So shipping on this book was roughly, I want to say $64. This was a $90-odd sale all in. The problem is, with that 15% offsite ad fee, by the time you calculated everything out, I lost $2.50 to complete this transaction. So Etsy, once again, if you're listening, you need to work on this offsite ad program. I appreciate that it does bring additional business, but on overseas orders with massive shipping costs, having that 15% apply to that shipping cost, which we lose money on anyway, is really, really problematic. In the case of this, it essentially cost me money to complete this sale. So not particularly pleased. Otherwise, it's a nice sale, $2 into $24.99. I would do those all day. But 15% of a $60-odd shipping cost makes it cost prohibitive. Back over to eBay. This is one of the ones I picked up last Saturday. I mentioned in last week's episode that I had stopped by an estate sale kind of on a whim and ended up buying like 167 or 169 books for about 90 cents a piece. This is the first one of those that sold. Modern Painting, Hardwood Finishing, and Sign Writing. It was like 3 books in one, published by the America Publishing Company in 1907. Cover had quite a bit of wear, pages had some tanning and foxing, but for a book that's 100 plus years old, it was in reasonably decent shape. I had it listed for $29.99 or best offer. I got an offer of $25 plus shipping and sent it on its way. Another of those cool old like woodworking textbooks that I talk about all the time, Planning and Milling, a treatise on the use of planers, shapers, and more. This was a kind of a textbook on old woodworking equipment. This book was published, I want to say, in the mid-1900s, was written by a guy named Franklin Jones. This is something I had picked up at an estate sale with a bunch of similar books for $1 each. This was listed also for $29.99 or best offer. I received an offer of $25 and sold it on eBay. I had mentioned, gosh, it's probably been a year now, I've been working on these. My brother owns a warehouse where someone who stored some stuff there had passed away and there was no family, so I've been gradually selling some of this stuff off for him. There was a massive collection of vintage NASA flyers, booklets, pictures. This was a concept poster, NASA Facts, number NF44, 7-72. This was published in July of 1972. The Space Shuttle folded concept poster done by Robert McCall back in 1972. Again, my cost of goods sold on this is essentially 25% of the net profit. That's what my brother and I have agreed to on this, so it ended up being a couple of bucks. This sold for $25.49. It was on part of my clearance sale. I think I had it listed originally for $29.99. Really interesting piece, big fold-out poster with concept art of the space shuttle, which had not yet launched at that point. Really interesting piece. Probably should have kept this for myself. I'm into that kind of stuff. Back over to Etsy and another international order, thankfully. This one did not sell through the offsite ad program, so this one I actually made some money on. Prayer is the Answer by Joseph Murphy. This was a 1957 second edition by Willing Publishing Company, hardcover in its dust jacket in really nice shape. This was also from that same Seventh-day Adventist sale. It's another book that I own for $1 that sold for $27.99 plus shipping. Still on Etsy, High Speed Longhand, a method of rapid writing. This was a new edition, revised and enlarged back in 1952. This was a hardcover that I picked up as part of the big 15,000 book lot that I talk about pretty much every week. So I own this thing for less than a nickel. It sold for $29.99 plus shipping. Interesting book about how to write in longhand faster. I get and sell quite a few of the old like Greg shorthand books, but this was the first time I'd ever seen anything about rapid longhand writing. Kind of an interesting book from the 1950s, and $30, I'll take it. Back over to eBay, Mike Major, Drawings of Washington and Georgetown. This was a illustrated hardcover in its dust jacket from 1982. The key thing on this one was that it had been signed by the artist. This was one I had listed, I think, for $35.99 or best offer. I received an offer of $30 plus shipping and sold this. It's a book essentially of sketches of the Washington, D.C. and Georgetown area. I believe the artist is from Dayton, Ohio, and this book actually sold to someone in Dayton, Ohio. Over to Mercari, which has actually continued to be pretty good. We're talking about it kind of every week, and I'm getting mixed feedback. I get a lot of buyers that are commenting on the video I did last month that they will no longer be purchasing on Mercari because of these fees. My sales are essentially the same over the last month as they were the month before. I double-checked it just to see. I know the first week when all this was kind of brewing, my sales were way, way down. I sold one item in that first week, but things have kind of returned to normal, and I'm essentially flat on Mercari over the last month. So I guess I'll take it. This book is also from that 160-odd book lot from last week. It's a 90-cent cost of goods sold. Community Hygiene by Chenoweth and Morrison. This is a second edition illustrated hardcover from 1946, published by F.S. Crofts. I had this listed for $35. With free shipping over on Mercari, and it sold almost immediately. This is kind of a rare occurrence, and I would expect, given what's going on with the fees, that it will be even rarer that I sell $30 plus items over on Mercari. My average ticket price over on Mercari is probably like $12. So this was a nice little bonus. So was this one, which also sold over on Mercari. Forest Life Series, Set 1 by Sam Campbell. This is a paperback box set, complete with 5 books, published by Pacific Press. For as near as I can tell, most of these books were published in the early 1970s. I had this listed for $50 plus. No, I'm sorry, $50 with free shipping. I received an offer of $35. I tried to split the difference. I offered them $44 on a counter offer, which they accepted. This book was one, this batch of books is one I picked up at an estate sale probably 6 months ago for $2. This was another one. This was an offer over on Etsy. Aunt Joe's Scrap Bag for an Old-Fashioned Thanksgiving, etc. It was a book of short stories by Louisa May Alcott from 1889. This book was really in fantastic condition for a book of that age. It was a small, kind of 5x7 hardcover, really, really nice little book. I had it listed for $54.99. I received an offer on Etsy of $45. This was also part of the big 15,000 book lot, so my cost of goods sold was less than a nickel, so $45 sounded like a pretty good deal. And last year, flip of the week. This one I had listed for $59.99. I sold on eBay for a best offer of $55. The Elevated Railways of Manhattan by Eric R. Ostowitz, illustrated paperback from 2014. This was part of a big lot of railroad and trolley memorabilia that I picked up at an estate closeout. Picked this up for $1 probably 3 or 4 weeks ago and sold for $55 over on eBay. So it was a really productive week. If you're following me over on Instagram, you'll know that I posted, I think it was on Thursday, that I had done to that point like over 80 shipments in the first 4 days of the week. It was just crushing. and then it kind of fell off a cliff. Friday and Saturday were really not that great. I ended up, I think I sold 114 listings or something like that over the course of the week, which is still a really, really solid week. I will definitely take it. I'm not complaining, but I was on track for probably a record week in terms of transactions, and it just kind of fell off at the end of the week. You can let me know down in the comments below what your week was like. You can also do me a favor if you got something out of this or you just found it entertaining or interesting. Do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button over on YouTube. If you're not currently a follower of the podcast or a subscriber to the YouTube channel, I would appreciate that as well. Remember, on YouTube, memberships are available as I do new videos and podcasts. They do go out to members in advance, so that's one of the perks you get for your membership if you like to support the channel. Another way you can support it, again, is to hit that thumbs up button or to share this with friends. As always, thank you so much for spending a little bit of your whatever day it is. I know a lot of people listen to this Monday morning when they're packing shipments, so happy Monday, everyone. And now it's time to sell. Thanks, everybody. You have been listening to the Galaxy CDs Rocks and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you again next time.